Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Espresso with me, Darius Anucauskas. Today's the 6th of September 2019. So welcome everyone. Welcome to this Friday's morning session. Where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts, the usual stuff. But before we do that, as always, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimer. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Also, just a quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website, but specifically our JFD research page, which you can always check on a daily basis, and I believe you can find a lot of interesting analysis here, so feel free to check us out. But for now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is gold. Now, I looked at gold yesterday, and basically what I was talking about is saying that if we see a drop below the 1533 zone, then yep, there is a good possibility of seeing this one sliding further down towards the 1516, 17 zone. You can see that it got violated, and we did get a drop below this, but as you can see that the commodity kind of quickly reversed back a little bit higher here. Now, how we're going to play this one out, and especially today, because we do have an eventful day today. We do have, it's that time of the month again when we do have the non-farm payrolls, and of course the employment figures from the US, also employment figures from Canada. So and during the European morning, we'll get the preliminary GDP figures from the Eurozone. So we could see a bit of movement here today. So keep your eyes on the non-farm payrolls figures, of course. As you follow some earlier data that comes out earlier this week, or to be more precise, on Thursday. So that's the ADP number. So some people like to kind of use it as a gauge for trying to predict the non-farm payroll number. So the ADP yesterday came out as better than expected, better than the previous, of course, as well. And this, of course, kind of is putting that kind of look. Everybody's kind of looking at the non-farm payrolls today, and hoping that they might come out better than expected as well. But of course, let's not focus on that too much. Let's see how the number comes out, because we did see deviations from between both. So that's why rather wait for the number for it to come out and then react to the market. So looking at gold here, you can see that yes, it is currently balancing around this 15, 16, 17 zone. What we're going to do here is actually going to remove this level here, because as you can see, it kind of violated but then kind of traveled back above it. So probably the more interesting area to watch will be this one right here near the 1512 and a half, something like that. We'll just to be on the safe side. So in a way, if we see another drop below this could open the path towards today's S1, which is around the 1499 level, or in a way near that psychological 1500 zone. And then, of course, if the selling continues, then it could continue traveling towards the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, which currently coincides with the 1493 zone. And this is what I talked about previously. So in a way, what I was saying, that by the time probably this could travel to the downside, this 200 EMA would probably already coincide with this level here, the 14.93 zone. So keep your eyes on this one. Good potential target. Slightly below that, we do have that upside support line, which also could get tested, because as you can see, overall we're still within an uptrend, and this kind of move lower could be seen just as a temporary correction. So do not exclude this possibility. So in terms of the upside here, we'll keep an eye on the same 15.33-34 zone. If we get a nice pop above it, then yep, we will aim for the 15.55 area again. But if that fails to withhold, then well, this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for more buyers. So keep your eyes on this one. Like I said, for today, from the short-term perspective, keep your eyes on the 15.34 zone, and on the downside, the 15.12. That's what we're going to be keeping a close eye on as well. Jumping into another commodity, and this is WTI Oil, and of course yesterday we had a nice spike here to the upside. We broke this downside resistance line, traveled above the 56.86 level here, and also managed to break the 57.43. Now of course after that, you can see that the commodity kind of quickly reversed back below the downside line here, and of course we did get the crude oil inventories, which came out much better than expected. And initially that's what we got. Then we got that initial spike here, but as you can see, the bears kind of pushed this one down again below this downside line. So in a way, as long as it kind of trades here, we are going to be a little bit more to the downside here. The only thing is that to get slightly comfortable with lower areas, ideally we would like to see a drop below the 55 mark, and only then consider further decline, because for now here it's a very tricky zone. In a way, it could travel lower here, it could maybe rebound from the 200 EMA and then push to the upside again, form something of a flag maybe here on the 4-hour chart. As you can see, we do have a nice pole here, but again, it's a bit of an ugly flag here, so that's why I don't focus on this too much. Wait for that, for those confirmation breaks. So in a way, what you could do here with the upside, still keep an eye on the 56.86 zone. If we get another push above it, then yep, we will aim for these higher levels. Initially we'll aim for the 57.43 here, but in a way it could lead the commodity all the way here towards this yesterday's peak near the 57.72. but to be honest, if it already will travel here, it might as well create a new higher high and travel a little bit higher here. So for now, long story short, basically on the upside, what we're looking here for, we need to see a push above the 56.86, and only then we'll aim for higher levels. In terms of the downside, we'll be very, very careful and conservative here and wait for a drop below the 55 zone before examining lower levels. AUDUSD, very quick update on this. So this is what I talked about. I talked about this one yesterday, and basically I was telling you guys to keep a close eye on this 200 EMA and this level right here near the 0.68 zone, because what I was saying, that if these two kind of hold the rate from dropping lower, in a way there's a good chance we could see this one pushing higher. So for now, we are more bullish than bearish on this one, especially if it breaks one of our key resistance levels. And let me just quickly adjust this, because this is probably no longer valid. We're going to focus more on this area right here. Let me just quickly put this one, and that's around the 0.6825-26 zone, approximately around there. If we get a nice pop above this, then yep, we will aim for higher levels. Our next target is around the 0.6859 here. Could be a nice good potential area. It was marked by the low of the 30th of July, and also by near the intraday swing, near an intraday swing high of August 1st. So good potential target here, but again, we'll consider that if we see a push above the 0.6825 zone. In terms of the downside, from the very short-term perspective, what you could look at here is, of course, don't get me wrong, I mean, if it travels back below this downside line, this is where it could become a little bit more interesting for a lot of sellers here. But from, like, as I said, from the shorter term perspective, what you could do here is keep an eye on this little area right here near the 0.68 zone. So In a way, if we see a drop below that, then we could see the pair sliding lower. We could let me just adjust this very quickly. There we go. So we could see the pair sliding lower. We could see this one testing the 0.6788 zone, or maybe, like I said, going all the way here towards a test of this downside resistance line from above. So good potential area, but again, this is the game plan probably for today. If, of course, if it exits one of these, if it exits this little kind of range here, but if it stays inside here, then this game plan will remain for next week as well. So keep your eyes on these two levels. Let's see how this is going to play out. Euro dollar, very quick on that. So yesterday I talked about this break here, the 1.1038 zone, 39. We did get a nice push higher, and of course during the tea time I was talking about this as well. And basically, initially I was targeting here the 1.109811 zone, so 1.11 area, but you can see it kind of quickly reversed back to the downside and traveled closer to the 1.1025 zone here. So this is quite an important level, this level, the 1.1025, because previously, as you can see, it acted as a good area of support in August, and this level here kind of acts as a nice magnet here, as you can see. So in a way, if we're going to see a drop below this now, then we will consider slightly lower areas. We'll aim for the 1.0975 level again, maybe here, which also acted as a good area of resistance previously. Now it could take the role of support, but in terms of the upside, now looking at this picture, to be honest, we're going to take a very cautious approach here, and we're going to wait until we see a clear push above the yesterday's highs near the 1.1085 zone. So only then we will aim for higher levels. Up until here, anything kind of any move higher here could kind of find a good resistance somewhere in the middle here, and we could see another leg of selling. So that's why we need to see a clear break above the 1.1085 before examining higher levels here. And on the downside, keep your eyes on the 1.1024-25 zone. If we see a drop below that, then we will consider the next potential area of support at 1.0975. So keep your eyes on that one. GBPJPY, very quick mentioning of this. So it continues to push nicely to the upside. Yesterday we saw a test of the 132 area, and today, and then after that, it did slide a little bit lower. It actually even tested the 132.10, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just quickly, even 15, 16, so approximately around there. So it did retrace back down a little bit, but it was kind of struggling, let's put it that way, to move lower. The buying activity on the pound is still strong, but don't get me wrong, if we get a nice good push again above the, or not, we shouldn't say again, but again, if we get a nice push above the 132.16 zone here, in other words, the highest point of yesterday, then yep, we will aim for slightly higher levels. We do have a nice good potential target here near this area right here, near the 133 zone. Good level. All is almost between the R1 and R2. So as we know, the pairs do like these levels as well. These in between the pivot points. So in between the resistance and support levels. So for now, what you could do here is be very careful, of course. Wait for, if we see a push above the 132.16 zone, then yep, we will aim initially for the R1, which is around the 132.63 zone, or slightly above that. Like I said, we do have that 133 zone, which also could play out nicely. Don't get me wrong, on the shorter time frame, we are quite overbought here, and we could see maybe a small correction to the downside here, maybe actually dropping back below towards the towards today's pivot near the 131.29 zone. So could be a nice interesting trade here, but again, like I said, for now it seems that it could, if it travels above the 132.16. The next target we're keeping an eye on is the R1, which is around the 132.63 or the 133 level. So keep your eyes on that one. If it struggles to push above the 132.16, then, well, I mean, we could consider a possible slide here towards today's pivot near the 131.29. Or even maybe a little bit lower, but again, let's not over speculate on this one too much. First, we'll see how this is going to play out, and if this pivot point holds nicely, then we could see another leg of buying. So for now, that's kind of the idea. If this starts dropping below the 130.68 zone, now this is where we will consider a possible further slide lower, because this way the pair would also be below its 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and we could see more bears joining in here a little bit, driving this one lower. So keep your eyes on this one. USDJPY, very quickly on this. So it had a nice good push higher. I talked about this one yesterday. So it remained above the 106.68 zone. That's a good sign, of course, but it's currently balancing near this other key area of resistance near the 107 area. So of course, what we're going to do here is we're going to not going to try to predict this one, because on one hand it is already kind of maybe slightly overbought on the shorter time frame, but so we could see maybe a small correction back down. But let's put it that way, as long as it remains above the 106.68 here, we will continue aiming higher, because this move lower could be seen as a temporary correction, and then we could see this one pushing back up again. The only thing is that for those who are more on the cautious side, what you could do here is wait for a clear push above the 107.18 and only then aim for higher levels, because this way the pair would confirm a forthcoming higher high, and we could target maybe the R2, which is around the 107.75 zone. So keep your eyes on that one. If this suddenly drops back below the 106.68 zone, then, well, this could turn out to be a little bit ugly for USDJPY, and we could see this one sliding to the downside. Probably the big move could come after the NFP release, so keep your eyes on that one. USDCAD, very quickly on this. So it tried to push towards this 1.3248 zone. It failed to break above it, and from there kind of slid back down. And you can see that this is what's happening right now. It's traveling lower. It's it's pushing towards the 1.32 zone again. If we get that break, if we get another drop below the 1.32, then, well, we will consider a possible slide towards the 1.3180 here, which acted as a fantastic area of support back on the 13th of August. But if that fails to withhold, then, well, there are some good obstacles underneath, and one of which could be around here, basically near the 1.3113 zone. But again, I do understand that it's quite a big of a slide. Don't get me wrong, we do have some Canadian figures coming out today as well, so both employment figures from US and Canada could kind of do the trick here, and we could see this one moving sideways probably strongly. So that's why, guys, have your stop loss in place, be very careful here, and let's see how this is going to play out. But the only thing is, like I said, what you could do here right now is keep an eye on some of these potential support and resistance levels. So in terms of the downside, keep an eye on the 1.32 area. If we see a drop below this, then there could be a chance of seeing further slide towards the 1.3180. But if that fails to withhold, now we could see a deeper move lower here. In terms of the upside, we need to see that nice good push above the 1.3248 before examining slightly higher levels like the 1.3310. And this would, of course, place the pair back inside this previous range, and then this is where we will remain somewhat still neutral, but from the very short-term perspective, inside that kind of range, we'll aim for slightly higher levels. Okay, guys, I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. If you want to join me later on at my traders tea time, we'll have the all the data already released. So we'll have a look at the markets, and we'll have a look at some of these instruments and see how they've performed. Yeah, I hope you have a wonderful trading day, guys, and I'll see you later. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.